Hello my sweet and beautiful and cozy bookish friends. Welcome to the vlog. I'm very excited for today's video because we have a lot of very cozy reading plans. We are going to be attempting to read 5 cozy books in 5 days. And I know that probably sounds very intimidating at first, but a lot of these books are kind of like shorter stories, so it's nothing too crazy. With it nearly being fall, me needing a little rest and slow down period, I'm very excited to just be reading a bunch of very cozy books, ones that feel like big warm hugs, and also kind of getting out of my comfort zone because I feel like a lot of these books that I'm going to be picking up this week are ones that I normally don't go for, so this could be a very hit or miss video. Let's go through the TBR, shall we? So first up we have What You're Looking For Is in the Library. This is, I believe, a Japanese translated fiction, could be Korean, I'm not 100% sure. It is a collection of short stories, and this book, from what I'm aware of, follows a few different people as they go into this library. There's a special librarian that works there, and I believe she can like sense what each person needs, so she recommends them the perfect book. Next up we have The Moth Keeper, and this will be my first graphic novel that I'll be reading. This has also been on many a TBRs, but I am finally actually going to be reading it in this video. This one follows our main character Anya, and Anya is finally taking her place as the protector of the moon moths. Being the moth keeper is a great responsibility, but something doesn't seem very right. And this last little sentence on the synopsis says, what happens when Anya glimpses the one thing that could destroy what she's meant to protect? The one thing she's secretly longed for her whole life. I just absolutely love the art style in this book. I think it is absolutely gorgeous, and I just think this is going to be such a good, fun, cozy time. Next, we have none other than A Fellowship of Librarians and Magic. This is the sequel to A Fellowship of Bakers and Magic. So cozy, so fun. I already know I love these characters, so I'm very, very excited to get to this one. And then the last 2 books I have on my TBR are actually TBD. I'm going in between a few different ones. First, I have We'll Prescribe You a Cat, which I believe is another translated fiction. I also have The Teller of Small Fortunes, which I believe is like a very cozy, kind of magical realism type of little fantasy book. And then we also have the second book to the Half a Soul trilogy. Honestly, Half a Soul healed my soul in ways like no other book I don't think could. So I'm just dying and itching to get like back in that world with those characters, even though it does follow like different characters in the first book. Still so cozy and I miss it so much. So that's kind of the plan for the week. We're going to slow down, give ourselves grace, love on ourselves and each other and our books, and it's gonna be such a good time. Also, if you have any fun, cozy, short story recommendations, please leave them down below, because I'm always looking for fun, cute, cozy little short stories to read, especially in between like bigger books. If you've seen some of my recent videos, I have been reading Throne of Glass, and that has taken a lot of brain power. So in between those books, it's great to have little like fun, cozy short stories to read, and we're getting out of our comfort zone, which we love. Go us, woo! All right, let's pick up our first book, get super cozy, and get reading. So we decided to have a fun little cozy river day. It's nice and cloudy out, so it's not like too crazy hot. So of course I had to bring all of my books. I haven't started one yet, but I did bring What You Are Looking For Is in the Library. I also brought Nettle and Bone, and then I also have The Moth Keeper. Which one do I want to read though? I also made a butterfly pea flower tea lemonade yesterday. Literally so good. Look how pretty it is. It's the most beautiful shade of purple. I had a fun little girls like mocktail night last night, and all of our mocktails, well, and some were cocktails, but I don't drink, so I made a mocktail. And they were all like Disney movie inspired, so of course I had to do Alice in Wonderland. And I made what's called the Absalom because it's butterfly pea flower. And when you brew it, it's like a really, really dark blue. But then when you like mix it with stuff, it turns purple. It's like a color changing tea. Beautiful, yummy. So good. So I have my options. I think I might start with What You're Looking For Is in the Library because I know I do have this on audiobook as well. Okay, so it is actually a few days later. And this morning I did spontaneously decide to cut my own bangs. Although I can't tell if they make me look like a little boy or if they're kind of like cute and grungy. I don't know, I'm still trying to like feel out the vibe. So this 5 days might actually turn into more like 6 or 7 days. But we're really gonna try to do 5 books in 5 days. Anyway though, I got halfway through What You Are Looking For Is in the Library. This book is so cute. I've literally almost cried like twice. Let me just read you a few little quotes. You manage to find employment, you go to work every day, and you can feed yourself. That's a fine achievement. Nobody's ever summed up my life in this way before. Her answer makes me want to cry. It's as if she sees me just as I am. That is so sweet and tender because I feel like I truly love books that just really like explore and expand on the mundane. I feel like so often we get characters who are like going through a lot. They have to be like super strong. They face really crazy trials. And although like that is interesting and that is very moving, I also feel like there's something extremely beautiful about talking about the mundane in this way. I think especially for me, like having chronic illness and being neurodivergent, trying to simply live in the everyday world can be a challenge. And especially like within the last year or two, simply doing the mundane and normal things like working every day, trying to like work out here and there, eating healthy, all of that has seriously been a challenge for me. So I felt very seen and very comforted by these characters and just kind of like exploring this fact that what you do is enough no matter like how big or small it is. Another really amazing quote is, "You can decide things, but there's no guarantee everything will go as planned. It's just that in a world where you don't know what will happen next, I just do what I can right now." Like, hello? That is such a good thing to like remember. But also, like I said before, this kind of follows, I think it's like 4 different characters, so there's 4 short stories. And this first short story is following a girl who's working basically like in retail. She doesn't really take care of herself very much. Like, she doesn't eat very well. She doesn't really cook for herself. She kind of has like a messy apartment. And then, I'm not gonna like give spoilers, but like throughout her little short story, she starts to realize like all the things that like she's been doing wrong and like how she can make her life that much better. So she starts to do these little things. So because of the book that the librarian recommended her, that in a way like sparks a bunch of different actions that kind of domino effect into her changing and growing into this like whole new person that she's really proud of. Oh my gosh, it's just so cute. Like, this book is definitely giving 5-star potential, which I did not expect at all. Like I said, I have a little over halfway through before I am done with this book, so I'm going to binge it all and then give you guys my final thoughts soon. I just finished this book. This book felt like the biggest, warmest hug I have ever received in my entire life. I think I'm gonna give it 5 stars. The last 2, so there ended up being 5 characters that we were following, like 5 short stories. The last 2 I didn't care as much about as the first 3, but still, loved them. So cute. This book is so different from a lot of the other ones that I've read because it just follows the most like mundane characters, things that they're going through, things that they are needing to kind of overcome. They go into this library for a purpose that is completely different from what they end up getting. And by getting this book, kind of like I said before, it creates this like domino effect where one action leads to another that leads to another that ends up completely changing their life. More so like how they see their life and how they go about living their life. I loved this book so much because the characters are just so relatable, and I also like the diversity of characters. You have a woman in her 20s that is working like a retail job. You've got a mother. You've got an old retired guy. There's just so many different kinds of characters that I feel like nearly everybody can relate to at least one of these characters. A common theme within all these characters is they are all kind of going about life in a bit of a negative way, I guess I would say. I feel like in so many books, our main character is often like the victim, like they've gone through a lot, they're fighters, but in this book, it's mostly like them getting in their own way of their happiness, and so they're kind of overcoming these like obstacles that they've placed on themselves, I guess, if that makes sense. And it's just truly such a beautiful story. This is only my 2nd Japanese translated fiction, I believe. This does kind of give Before the Coffee Gets Cold vibes, but for some reason Before the Coffee Gets Cold did not hit nearly as hard as this book did. Another quote that I absolutely loved from this book, more towards the end, is, "Readers make their own personal connections to words, irrespective of the writer's intentions, and each reader gains something unique." I always talk about how reading is completely subjective, and that's exactly exactly what I mean. Like, the author could intend A, B, and C, but it's so subjective that like each individual reader like picks up on different things in the books. And I think that is so cool and so beautiful, and I love that so much. So, 5-star read, starting this video off very strong. Now I have to pick my next book, which I do have one in mind that I really want to get to. So for our next read, I think I'm going to do 10,000 Stitches. This is the second book in the Regency Fairy Tales series, the first book being Half a Soul. I loved Half a Soul so much, so I'm very, very excited to get back in this world, back with these characters. And this does follow characters I believe that we were introduced to in Half a Soul. One of the little blurbs on the back says, an enchanting fairy tale set in Olivia Atwater's magical version of Regency England. 10,000 Stitches is a delightful romantic romp with a Cinderella twist and heaps of heart. This sounds perfect. Truly just perfect for the vibe right now. It's also getting really gloomy and rainy outside, so definitely giving some fall vibes. So I'm gonna go get cozy and start our new book. Hello, and good morning. Welcome to a new day. As you can see, it is very rainy and gloomy today, which I'm absolutely loving. It's giving all the cozy fall vibes. I am currently on page 90 of 10,000 Stitches, and might I say, this was the perfect pick. What I didn't realize though, and something that I feel like someone told me at some point, is this is basically like a Cinderella retelling, but kind of more in like a fantasy fairy type of world, because we are following our main character Effie, and Effie just kind of randomly stumbles upon a fairy godfather. He is a man of the Fae, and he's kind of on this mission to basically like help the poor and the helpless and be mean to the rich and the like higher folk, I guess I would say. Effie ends up telling this fairy that she has fallen in love and wants to marry this man, but there's a little problem. She's only a housemaid, and I can't remember exactly. I think he's like a duke or something. I don't know. He's like higher up in society, so she can't marry him because of who she is. And our fairy godfather is basically there to help Effie marry this man and like make her into someone who he could marry. It's so fun and cute and funny. I just love their interactions, but it's also a little bit emotional with that Olivia Atwater twist, where it just shows very like real, raw emotions, all while being very like fun and whimsical, which is what I love so much about her writing. It's a very beautiful balance. So I'm absolutely loving it so far. This is also a shorter read. I believe it's only about 250 pages. Today is full of all the cozy vibes, so I am going to read a little bit more, and then I'm going to go make some kind of fun, yummy, cozy meal for lunch and continue to get swept away in my read. So last night I started feeling a little bit of my depression coming up again, so I decided to take a little work break and work on my reading journal, and I did a cutie little like fall spread. This spread specifically doesn't really have anything to do with books, but I have my fall bucket list and then like recipes to try. So this is what I ended up doing last night. This is supposed to be a pie. I know it doesn't really look like one, but I tried. So with that though, I actually ended up finishing 10,000 Stitches this morning, and oh my goodness, it was so stinking cute. Something that I did not realize though until like literally 55-60% of the way through is that I thought that the fairy godfather was like more of a older like father figure type of guy. I was very wrong on that one. So like 65-70% of the way through the book, I was like, wait, I don't know. I feel like that's probably going to be a spoiler, so I'm not going to say anything, but go into this book not thinking that he's like an older fatherly, grandfatherly type of figure, because that is not the case. And if I would have known that going into the book, I feel like I would have like had a tiny bit of a different experience, and I probably would have like enjoyed it even more. Either way though, I am going to give it a 4.5. I was debating on if I should just give it 5 stars because there's really nothing that I like don't like about this book, but it just didn't really give me those 5-star feelings, you know? But I literally loved everything about it. It was so cute, so wholesome. It was quirky and funny, but also had depth to it. This was just such a fun and whimsical and magical little read. At first, I thought it was like a Cinderella retelling, but it's not really. It just, like the little blurb on the back said, it just has a little bit of like a Cinderella twist, which was so fun. If you can't tell, I thought this book was fun. These books are honestly just like the perfect short reads, palate cleansers, cozy comforting books, and I have a great time with them every single time. Oh, I loved it so much. Honestly, I might end up giving it a 5-star, who knows. But now we need to pick our next book. Oh, it's in my other room. So I think the next one that I want to read is The Moth Keeper. This is a graphic novel, which will be my first graphic novel that I've read. Very exciting. Because I've never read a graphic novel, I don't know what to expect as far as like plot goes. But as for the theme of this video, I'm assuming it's gonna be very cozy. I'm not expecting much of a plot. I'm more just expecting vibes. I am really needing to get out of the house today. I've been cooped up for far too long. So I think I might go to a coffee shop or maybe get another acai bowl. I have a problem. I literally have a problem. I don't know. Either way, I'm gonna get out of the house, start reading this book, and just have a fun, cozy, good time. We ended up finishing The Moth Keeper at the coffee shop, and for my first graphic novel experience, I would say it went very well. This book was so cute. I think with it also being my first graphic novel experience, I had such a fun time getting the story through a different medium such as art versus like just words on paper, which obviously I love just words on paper, but this was just such a unique way of like storytelling. With that though, I will say that I did get a little bit lost in the plot here and there because some of the things that happen, you're just looking at the pictures and you kind of just have to guess what's happening from the pictures, but sometimes the pictures don't really explain what's going on very well, and there's no words with a lot of the pictures, so it was just a little bit confusing during those parts, but everything else was so much fun. The characters were super, super cute. The land, the world, obviously there's not a whole lot of like world building because you can see it all in the art, but the world and the atmosphere was so cute, so cozy. It did have like a little plot that I felt like was very easy to follow, except for the times where I was a little bit confused. There was some like change and grow with our characters. There was emotional depth. There was cute, cozy, wholesome connection and community. Everything I love in a story this book had, plus super, super cute, fun, cozy pictures. Just the colors and the style of this author's art is impeccable. Definitely 100% my vibe. So I'm going to see what other books this author has, or even just kind of go on a little graphic novel spree and look at all the graphic novels. If you guys have any graphic novel recommendations, please leave them down below. As far as like a star rating goes, it's kind of hard for me to find a star rating for a graphic novel, but I think if I were to give it a star rating, it'd be like a 4-star, and they're super quick reads. I read this all in like an hour and a half. I mean, given this is like the most amount of words that's on each page. So these are very, very quick reads, which I feel like is perfect, especially if you're going in between some like heavier reads. I think that these are like perfect palette cleansers, and I will definitely be reading more graphic novels. So for our next read, I think we're going to be doing Nettle and Bone, although I did look this book up, and I think it's more a mixture of dark and cozy, because I know this book has a lot of like darker elements, but I know it also has some cozy elements as well. So I don't really know what vibe this book is going to give off, but we'll find out. Basically, from what I know, this book is about our main character, Mara, and she is a third-born daughter. She's relieved not to be married off for the sake of her parents' throne, but her older sister wasn't so fortunate. Her older sister ends up marrying some really, really bad dude. So our main character is kind of on this mission to go save her, basically. But along the way, she forms some unlikely alliances. I've heard this has some kind of fun and quirky characters, so I think this is going to be a good time, and I've heard really good things about it. But is it a book that's going to be my taste? I don't know. We'll find out. Good morning, my sweet fellow bookworms. So, last night I did end up starting Nettle and Bone. I'm on chapter 4, so I'm about 28 pages in. I'm so lost. The way that this book starts is so beyond confusing. So basically in this book, our main character is kind of like set on this mission. She has to accomplish like 3 different things in order to like go save her sister. And at the beginning of the book, we're already like halfway into the adventure, and we're kind of just like thrown into the middle of the story. So literally starting this book, I was like, am I missing something? Like, is there a prequel to this, or like what's going on? Because I feel like I was just thrown into a story without any context whatsoever. And then throughout the next couple chapters, we're just like jumping in between different times, but doesn't tell you like where or when we are, and it keeps just like jumping to random things. So I'm getting so lost. I do not understand what's going on like at all. The way this is written, it doesn't feel like linear at all. It feels like there's a bunch of different like puzzle pieces, and like you get one here, you get one here, here's one thrown here, and I don't understand what is happening. So that's a little frustrating, and I am like having a really hard time getting invested in the story because I'm so confused. But I feel like maybe as I like continue to read it, it'll hopefully get more like linear. But for right now, yeah, I don't know about it, but it's because of the writing style. So I'm gonna read some reviews, maybe talk to a few people that have read this and kind of get, you know, a better feel for it, because I don't know, I might be putting this one down and picking up a different one. But I've been really wanting to get into T. Kingfisher's writing, so I don't want to put it down, but also maybe this book specifically just wasn't the best to start with. I don't know, I'm going to keep reading, see how I end up feeling, and see if I actually continue this or just pick up a different one. This weekend, Danny and I are going camping with a bunch of friends. Very excited for that. So I did have to do some like meal prepping and stuff. I made homemade tortillas because I really want to make like breakfast tacos and dinner tacos. So I made like 12 tortillas. So during this meal prepping session, I did switch to the audiobook of Nettle and Bone, and I am about 50% of the way through. So far, honestly, this book is kind of giving like 3-star vibes, if that. It did get less confusing. Honestly, that first like 4 chapters, I do not at all understand why it is written that way. It is so confusing. It's so hard to follow. I understand what the author was trying to do, because you know how a lot of books, like the author has the first chapter as something that's happening like in the middle of the chaos to like get you gripped. I feel like that's kind of what the author was trying to do, but it just like did not work, at least for me. It just made me confused. And then I don't know, throughout the rest of the story, like it's okay, and it's definitely feeling more like linear, but I just don't really care about the characters that much. I don't really care about this world very much because, again, it was very confusing from the beginning. So I just feel like I never really got invested. Where I'm at too, I'm getting kind of bored. The pacing is so confusing because at the beginning, the first chapter is in the middle of the story. And then after that, you basically get an info dump of our main character, her family, kind of like the kingdom and how everything works, I guess. And then after that, she goes to find this witch of sorts and then like kind of embarks on this journey, but it's not nearly as like adventurous as I thought it was going to be. I don't know. This book just gives like different vibes than I thought. And like the beginning was very like heavy and kind of darker, and then now it's kind of like slow, cozy. The vibes are just so back and forth. But either way, yeah, I'm just like not really invested in the story. But I am gonna finish it because I'm already halfway through. Now that I'm done meal prepping though, I probably will switch back to the physical copy. So I will most likely update you guys later when we get up to the mountains and I finish this book. Hello friends. Yesterday we got back from the mountains, so we went up Friday. I ended up finishing Nettle and Bone, and then Saturday I ended up starting a Fellowship of Librarians and Dragons, and then Sunday we were coming back down, so we packed up, we went to a hot springs, we drove home, so I did not read or film anything on Sunday. So this is technically my 6th day of reading, but that's okay. So Nettle and Bone, like I just said, I did finish this on Saturday, and I think I'm gonna give it a 3-star. I ended up liking it a little bit more towards the end. Once I got through the halfway point, I kind of started feeling consistent and I started liking the characters. I had a little bit of like a found family type of trope, but still, I just never felt like I got really connected to the characters or the story. This is not a bad book at all. I genuinely think that it's kind of just one of those books where you either like it or you don't. And for me, it just like didn't work very well, although I do see how it could for a lot of other people. So definitely don't let my review of this book sway you one way or the other. It got a little bit adventurous at a certain point, but not nearly as much as I had hoped. So I don't know, for my first T. Kingfisher book, not really for me, but I do feel like if this book was done a little bit differently, then I would really enjoy it because I liked the atmosphere that our author, set for us. And I did like the cozy found family, like those kinds of vibes. Just all the things didn't work together very well. So I feel like I'll definitely have to read a couple more of her books and see if it's a little bit different in each one. So moving on to my current read now, which is A Fellowship of Librarians and Dragons, and I love it so much. I think I'm only like maybe 50 or 60 pages in right now, but it's just giving the same super fun and cozy and wholesome vibes that the first book gave, except for now we are following Dolly, which is one of our main character in the first book. It's like one of her friends. So we are following her story, and kind of a lot of things are going on. First of all, she comes from a more more wealthy family, but she really tried to get out of that scene because they had a lot of like unrealistic expectations for her, and so she wanted to kind of like make her own way. So she got a little box inherited from, I believe, like her uncle, and in this box is a couple little trinkets and things, and then she gets a dragon egg. So she has this big responsibility now of A, hatching the dragon, and B, now caring for it through its life. So we're trying to like tackle that and maintain that also while having the hots for this gargoyle that came in at the bookstore. And of course there is the fun and cozy baking and tea magic that was in the first book. So very, very, very excited to read the rest of this one because I think it might be another 5-star. I think all these books honestly will be 5 stars. I also love in these books that it has art in the front of our main characters. So this is who we're following in this book. And I also just absolutely love the cover of these. So I'm having a great time. Today I believe Danny and I are going to bike to the park because everybody has a day off. So probably going to bring my book, maybe get a fun cozy treat, and binge read. I finished A Fellowship of Librarians and Dragons, and it was so stinking cute. Oh, I just love these books so much. I do think I'm going to give this one like a 4 or a 4.5. It didn't quite grip me plot-wise as much as the first book did, because in the first book, I really loved that there was like something that we were working towards the whole time. Like it was a competition style, so it had a little bit better of a plot versus this one. It felt a little bit like slower and less plot heavy. I mean, either way, these are very cozy fantasy books. So there really isn't like the biggest high stakes plot, but in the first book, it was definitely a little bit higher stakes than this one. But this one was still very cute, very cozy, very fun. The world is just the most wholesome and fun to be in. It's so whimsical and magical. I love how much they talk about baking and pastries. It truly just feels like a warm hug. And I do love that this one had dragons involved. The romance as well was pretty cute. These are definitely not the most romance heavy books, but I feel like this one had a little bit more romance than the first book did. I loved both of these characters. I love this whole world of characters, honestly. And I'm really excited for the next book because I think it follows one of their other friends who's kind of like a grump. She's kind of that character that like hates people but loves being part of this family and this community. It's very silly. And I believe in the next book it is set in like winter, and it does follow them throughout some city games or like some competition that the city puts on. So I think it'll be very, very fun. Super excited. Even though it's not quite a 5-star, it is still an all-time favorite series. But now that we are done with that, that is our 5 books that we are reading this video. Truly, my soul feels so healed. For some reason, I've just been feeling a little bit anxious, a little bit depressed. Like my brain was just doing some really weird things to me, and truly reading these books just like filled my cup and made me feel so whole. I don't think we realize sometimes like how much of an influence what we read has on our mindsets and our mentality, our mental health. So it felt really good to take a break from some of the more intense and kind of darker stuff, except for Nettle and Bone. But it felt good to kind of take a break from all the craziness of other fictional worlds and stories and just dive into a lot of things that just, again, feel like big warm hugs. So I hope you guys had fun with me because I had a lot of fun doing this. I love you all so much, and I will see you in my next video. Mwah.